Hi, welcome to the Africa Property Podcast brought to you by Seso Global. And today we have an amazing show for you. We have an extraordinary gentleman here called Mr. Dale Bryant, and he's an investment advisor by trade with decades of experience in Wall Street, who's working on providing housing options for Black Americans in Ghana and beyond. And I think it's great to have him here because the work that Sesu does is to provide the best options and the best real estate deals for people across the globe in Ghana, Nigeria, and across the continent. So we are very excited to speak to Mr. Bryant today. Hello, Dale. How are you doing?
Good.
Good to speak with you.
Man, when you said I had decades of experience, I didn't know how old that was going to make me feel.
No,
Decades of experience.
It shows wisdom, and that's the value, And you look great. Honestly, I think so. Dale, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Just anything you'd like to share with us.
Just the basics. I was born in New York City, born and raised. My family's from the South, Alabama. Born in Queens, lived most of my life in Brooklyn. Went to school out of state in Connecticut, and like you alluded to, started my career on Wall Street, working for a couple of firms, and left. My last job was Lehman Brothers, where I created an investment company to help Black people invest their money. Because back in those days, there weren't many places that would take your money as an African American. So that was my first foray into doing something radical for the benefit of our people. And I started my own investment firm, and I've been managing money, retirement money, investment portfolios for clients since the late 90s. And before we moved here, we lived in downtown Brooklyn, me and my wife. My wife is from Guyana, and she was in healthcare, a pharmacist. And she was the impetus for the move here. I was on the hamster wheel of America. I had no thoughts of ever leaving Brooklyn, ever leaving New York, but she put that idea in motion, and it just made so much sense. So we came to Ghana last September to check out the scene. It was a no-brainer, and we moved here 1 year to the month from the first time we came. So we're here in Ghana, nice and comfortable.
Wow, that's amazing. And just before we even go on, speaking of going the hamster wheel, you're also a content creator, a YouTuber. And could you just tell us a little bit about your channel before we delve deep?
Also, I have to give a shout out to my wife, who was the person who really. I typically don't always like to be in front of the camera. My style is to be in the back of the room, scoping things out, quiet. But she said we have a good story to tell. A lot of people can learn, and so the two of us created a channel called Off the Wheel. And the wheel is the hamster wheel that 99% of Americans are on. And it's the hyper consumer materialism, stressed out, never ending race of keeping up with the Joneses, acquiring stuff, paying the debt on the things that you may or may not be able to really afford. And so that hamster wheel is indicative of a typical life in America. And so our channel is to challenge Black Americans to just ask one simple question. Would life in Africa be better for you? And if it is not then fine, you ask the question, good enough.
Yes.
But if you say, maybe, let me think about it, then we're trying to lead by example of how you can get off the hamster wheel, whether it's soon or if you need a 10-year plan, and reimagine a new life, a better life, a healthier life,
Yes.
a cultural life
Exactly.
in Africa. For us, it's Ghana, but there are dozens of countries out of the 50-something countries that would be open arms for Black Americans.
Exactly.
Most of them in West Africa, but there are other countries. And so that's what the wheel is all about. And so we demonstrate our life, we highlight our life, we talk about the thought process that we went through. We document all the crazy experiences that you have to go through, like shipping a container from America here.
Yes.
That's its own, story. And so the channel is to just show people, because there's a lot of Black Americans who are having these discussions, or at least the thoughts they're having in the closet. Because if they were to bring up the topic, friends say, oh, that's crazy. Family say, oh, that's crazy. But when we find each other, it's not so crazy.
Yeah.
We've learned this through our YouTube channel.
Exactly.
Hundreds of people have reached out to us saying, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing what I have been thinking about doing, and you've inspired me to take the next step and follow through. And so that's what we want to do. We want to motivate people, we want to encourage people, assist people. And so that's what the channel is all about.
I think you're doing the Lord's work. That's amazing because, there's a growing number of people who are looking, to different places to see if they can, as you said, live a more fulfilling life, either while they are working or after, during retirement.
Yeah.
And I think for Black Americans, Africa is definitely open arms and looking to welcome our brothers and sisters back, basically. So just building off of that, you mentioned how you talk about your experiences and how sharing those experiences help other people. So could you tell us some of maybe how your stay has been so far in Ghana, maybe the highlights? And then
Yeah, well, so to discuss that is to give people who are thinking about moving here a heads up, a warning.
Exactly.
And typically when you go somewhere, you want to bring your style, your way of doing business, all of your things you want to bring, and you want to educate the people, you want to teach the people. That's not the case here. Things are different here. Culture is different. The way things are done is different. Rude behavior that is expected in New York City, you can't move past first base here with rude behavior. And so just getting normal things, what I call getting legitimate, like the housing permit, your Ghana card, which is the equivalent of a social security number in America, your driver's license, all of this stuff is done differently in America. And if you're not patient here in Ghana, you lose your mind. And so, so some of the more crazier stories have been trying to get these things to be a nice law-abiding resident of Ghana, but the things you have to do to go get it is incredible.
It's amazing.
And so only the committed survive. We see a lot of people, I'm sure you do, some of them on YouTube, others not, who run back to wherever they came from because they thought it was going to be a different kind of party here.
Exactly.
And they weren't as committed, weren't as prepared, didn't plan as well, and they have to run back. So for any Black American who's here, they're committed. Yeah.
Definitely. I understand exactly what you mean. It's a growing economy and a growing country, and there are a lot of things that lots of kinks that are being worked out
Yeah.
each and every year.
Yeah.
And that's actually, well, I'll ask you one question further on as to how you think the diaspora can contribute. You mentioned that it may not necessarily be in the form of direct teaching or on the individual basis, but there are definitely ways in which people like you with so much experience and knowledge can contribute to us working for a better Ghana to make it a sort of a more welcoming home for people.
Well, it's a multi-layered answer. And so I'll start with just the surface answer, which is if you don't care anything about Ghana, like if Ghana is just a tourism destination for you, you will still help Ghana with your spending, your discretionary income. I call the American dollar the super dollar. I remember listening to one of your earlier podcasts where you talked about the dollar. You made fun of the dollar, and I was like, look at Victor making fun of our super dollar. But it's a super dollar, and so if you care nothing about Ghana, just coming here and spending money sends out an economic ripple effect to the surrounding neighborhoods.
Yeah.
The lady who used to sell 2 packs of Burner water per week, maybe she sells 4 now.
Exactly.
And if another person comes, maybe she sells 6 now. And so the little profit margin spread that she made on selling a pack of water or an individual water increases her bottom line. So that's a good thing. Just more dollars coming in is good for everyone. Asterisk, because I do understand the gentrification risk that we experienced living in Brooklyn. And so there's a fine line between positive economic ripple effect, but also the risk of gentrification. Now, those are people who don't care. For people who are a little more woke and aware of things and want to come with good intentions and want to be more focused and intentional about it, there's so much that the Black American can do with the discretionary spending that I talked about, but also with investment capital. Like sometimes the dollar amounts that we don't think are so big can be life-changing here for certain business enterprises. And so there's a lot of opportunity for what I would call collaboration between people moving in and what they bring, spending, capital, and then finally what you tapped into, which is expertise. That's like high level stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you help someone's revenue by spending money on products is good, but it's not the same as transferring knowledge that you've accumulated, using your skills and expertise to help a business expand and scale bigger. So spending, capital, and expertise are the 3 main ways that Black Americans can make impact.
I mean, that's such a great way in which you laid it out, and I think this is unique in the way you've laid it out, and I think it can go a long way to bringing people's minds, both people here and in the diaspora, as to where and how we can have a synergetic relationship towards creating a home that all of us will enjoy. I think that's great, and how to move our home lives forward. I think that's a really great plan, workout plan. So I'd like to, you mentioned capital and those who care about Ghana, and I think, like you said, you are one of those who actually cares about Ghana and is trying to build a life here, and build some roots here. And I think one of the first point of calls is having a home, and we are here in your lovely house today, and that I'd like to find out, how did you like come about finding a home? And could you tell us about the process? Anything you'd like to share?
So here's another very important gem for watchers, because while the government campaign, the year of return, is welcoming with open arms, and while you'll hear how the Ghanaians are some of the nicest people, these are all good things that draw you in. But we must be honest with the people and the viewers and the watchers, in that to not only speak about the good parts. Some of the downside things to be improved in Ghana is the real estate part, and how laws are murky, and how bad players take advantage of incoming. They play on the niceness of most Ghanaians that we feel as Americans, and they play on incoming people who are looking for housing. And so there's some bad things that happen in real estate, which is why when my wife was doing the research, before we came, we used YouTube as a resource to look at different neighborhoods, because but many people may not know that some of the worst players in Ghanaian real estate will sell the same house to 2 or 3 people. And now you're in court, now you're fighting for people, now you're trying to get your deposit back. So when you're looking for a place to live, some people say, I want to buy the dirt and then I want to build on it. We weren't those kinds of people. I owned homes as a young kid. My wife owned a home before we met. We're apartment people, and we know what we are. So we were never going to be the people that came to Ghana to buy the land to build a home. We leave that for other people. So we wanted to replicate something that we were comfortable with and accustomed to, which is apartment living. And so my wife did a lot of research before coming here. We looked at everything from all the developers, townhouses, semi-detached, detached, villas. And through Seso Global, we found the place that we're living in. And so what's important to know about what I'm saying now is, when you come and you look for your home, there is risk all around you. And you have to use different strategies to de-risk your situation. So using Seso was one layer of de-risk, because Seso has vetted properties on their website, which doesn't mean it's 1,000% safe. It just means a level of evaluation. Then when we also looked at who underwrote this project, we saw that it was the Ghana Pension Fund. So we said, okay, chances are those guys are not going to be involved in anything that's going to harm us. So between Seso being the first layer of vetting, between the developers being Ghana Pension Fund, it was different than buying a home or a lot from John Smith down the road, which I don't even know if he lives in the neighborhood, if he owns the property, if he's about to go to jail.
Or how many people own that property.
So you have to use different techniques to de-risk your situation. So our 2 biggest things were Seso and the developer.
I think that's key that we should note. De-risking your situation is very important in Ghana and Nigeria as well, because while you can't give anybody the benefit of the doubt, and it's always best to protect your investment as
New
much
Yorkers
as...
don't give benefit of the doubt. Everybody's suspicious.
Yes, definitely. It's good that way. That way, everybody is able to be safe and as much as possible, even though you can't do away with risk.
Right.
Yes. So thank you so much for that, because I think that's a really good explanation. So what are this question might be related, but if there are any key points of the differences between finding real estate or real estate in general and the other places which you've lived in, and then Ghana. So it
We
could
don't,
be
we don't, we
size.
don't got the time.
I
We
know.
don't got the time.
Okay.
We don't got the time.
Yeah.
Listen, it's like no other place, Ghana. And that's good and bad. And so, for example, in America, in New York State, you would never send anyone money before you saw a contract, before you got a lot of paperwork up front. But here in Ghana, it is not unusual, and we actually did it ourselves. We sent strangers money to another continent
Yes.
before we saw a contract. And that's not unnatural here. And so it comes back to,
Ecosystem.
the different way of doing things and how Americans who are moving here are going to have to adapt, or you'll drive yourself crazy. And so things move a little slower here. Like in the States of New York, if you're trying to buy a home and big money is being exchanged, emails are answered immediately, phone calls are picked up immediately, things are moving.
Yes.
Timetables are discussed, timetables are met. Here in Ghana, things are very mushy. So we sent money, weeks go by, then we hear. So you just have to be really prepared to not bring all of your expectations to Ghana, is what I would say.
Yes. We appreciate that. So, what are the main things that you prioritize when searching for a property, you personally? And then maybe you can.
So because I'm not here personally totally retiring, I'm still running a business. I have plans on other projects that I'm working on. Efficiency, to the degree that I could get it, was important to me. So in Ghana, occasionally the lights will go out, right?
Exactly.
Or sometimes more than occasionally.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes more.
It's part of the system.
In everyday normal Ghana living, you either have to, I got friends who have told me, yeah, Dale, we didn't have electricity for the weekend.
Yes.
Like, this is unheard of for me. But they're okay with it.
That's where
they're in retirement mode.
Yes.
They ain't got nowhere to go, nothing to do. So they can have no electricity for the weekend. I didn't really want to have no electricity for the weekend. So now, if you had a home, you could have your own backup generator. But I didn't want to have to deal with that. So one thing, I don't know if it's number one, it might be top 5. For me, looking for a place was a facility, a complex that had backup electricity that I didn't have to worry about.
Automatic.
Right. And so that narrows down,
Yes. Your school.
Yeah. And so here at this place, like a lot of other developments that are proliferating around Ghana, they have their own backup generators. Electricity goes out, when you see a flicker, it kicks back on, your electricity's back on. And so, but that also dovetails into something else very important for me as an American, with coming from a place with different climate seasons, coming to a place where it's always hot. Right?
Yes.
So, and that's air conditioning.
Yes.
And so when it's hot here, when it's the hot season, I can't sleep without AC.
Yeah.
And so if the electricity is off for 3 days, then now I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
My mind is not working right. I'm irritable.
True.
And so my wife, who is from Guyana, she can sleep when she goes to visit her family in Guyana. She sleeps through humid weather that has her sweating throughout the night. She can do it. Yeah. I don't want to do it. So electricity was important for those 2 reasons. So that was top 5 for me. But also, again, something that really mimicked what we had at home, which is, we didn't want stairs. We have family members who are struggling back at home to get up there.
Yeah.
They're 3-story homes.
Exactly.
We didn't want stairs. We wanted safety. Didn't want to necessarily be in the center of a crowd where everything is happening. It's good to be a little off the beaten path. We can get to the city when we need to, but it's quiet here. So those are some of the things that.
That's great.
Right.
That definitely makes sense. And then, so I think just before, one question I'll ask is, so what has your experience been owning this home? Like just in terms of management and your experience, and you mentioned electricity and how that affects your lifestyle, but how has it been currently managing this?
Well, it's been coming from America. It's been very different because in America, you don't really own your home outright at younger ages. You take out loans to buy homes. Sometimes people take out loans to buy homes they can't afford. Everyone typically tries to afford just a little bit more than they really should afford. Here in Ghana, the mortgage industry is, I would say, what would be the word we would call it? Is that a bad word? It's growing. It's growing. Meaning there is no mortgage industry.
Yeah.
And so you have to buy outright here. Developers allow you sometimes to do 2-year plans. In America we call it a layaway plan. Right? So that's not really a mortgage, it's like a layaway plan, a 2-year plan. Right. Which is fine. That even helps too. But mostly you're paying cash for your home. So whatever you can afford, you can pay. You can't get a house here in Ghana for more than you can afford.
Yes.
So that's different in that one of the biggest, I think the biggest expense for Americans on the wheel is either rent or mortgage. These are the things that keep you running on the wheel. No matter what, that payment is due every month. And so coming to Ghana and buying cash what you can't afford removes that biggest anxiety that most Americans have. You lose your job, your mortgage still wants to be paid.
Yes.
You have a health issue, your mortgage still needs to be paid. So there's always anxiety. Even changing jobs. Oh, if I change a job and a better job, but I have too much time in between my old job, leaving my old job and getting paid in my new job, will that affect the money to pay that rent or that mortgage? So housing expense is always hanging above. Here, housing expense is non-existent because you only can buy what you can afford. So living here has been a dream with no anxiety over housing expense. If I lived in a cardboard box, it would be a dream.
Yes, I know.
Because I have no housing expense. And so my answer is a long answer, but the answer is no matter where you go, no matter what you buy, it will be good. It will be yours. And so managing it will be good.
Dependent on your
Place. So yeah.
That's amazing. I think that sounds like a great life. So, and speaking about that, so you mentioned that you used Seso Global. That was a resource. And could you tell us one moment where you felt that you had made the right choice in working with Seso?
Well, actually, I think it's only proper to be in full transparent to let the watchers know that I'm also an investor in Seso Global because Do you know the story of how that all happened?
I'm not exactly.
Well,
But
you should know. You should know.
Yeah.
So we used Seso to look at property, to look at this,
Yes.
and we chose this property.
Yes.
And then when we got home, we learned that Seso was doing a housing expo in Brooklyn, where we live.
Okay. Yes, I do.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
So we went to that housing expo. Now it was not for Ghana homes; it was for Nigerian homes.
Okay.
And so at a Brooklyn brownstone, 60 African Americans came to listen to Seso talk about housing opportunities in Nigeria. And that's where I got to meet Daniel, one of the founders, and I invited him over for lunch the next day. He came over, and I liked what he was doing and what he was planning on doing so much that my wife and I invested in the company, because we were like, we're coming to Ghana. Seso helped us find a place.
Yeah. Definitely.
More Black Americans will probably be using Seso.
Yes.
We're going all in on Ghana in so many different ways. It just makes sense now for us to invest in Seso.
Exactly.
So full transparency, we're also investors as well. But to answer your question, when did we feel that we made the right choice? Well, we worked with one of the Seso brokers, I believe it was Abigail, and she was very hands-on. And so it's important when you're living in America, trying to do business here, that you feel like your interests and your concerns are being addressed through someone who is really advocating for you.
Yes.
And so through Seso, through Abigail, we felt comfortable that she was pushing for the things that we needed to feel good about, because we didn't know Eden Heights.
Yes.
Now, we had just met Seso, but I had met Daniel, so I felt a little bit better about that. And so I felt that we had made the decision at some point when I saw how hard Abigail was working for us.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's definitely great to have a personal touch and to have like somebody, like you said, an advocate who is going to try and break through all those red tapes and those bottlenecks that we sometimes have.
Yeah, I don't know how we would have done it without someone on the ground.
Yes. And following up on things like you mentioned, when things tend to move slow, you need somebody who has experience and the network to be able to make things move a little faster, or have the updates that you need when you need.
And now that I'm here and I see how things move slowly in Ghana, I have a newfound respect for Abigail, because a lot of times when you don't know, you might think, oh, she's the one holding up the process. She's not following up.
That happens a lot.
You know, you don't know. Yeah. But once you come here and understand Ghana, you understand she could have been knocking on doors every day, but the information wasn't getting back to her. So shout out to Abigail.
And so building off of that, as an investor with so much experience, even though you're a young man, what are your views on the business environment in Ghana, and how can is Ghana, in your opinion? I mean, there are different perspectives, but in your opinion, is Ghana a good place to invest? Are there other places in Africa that you've
invest in? What, real estate or business?
Let's go with real estate to be a little more focused. But you can add a little bit about business as well.
And in investment, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. In business, it's difficult. Mm-hmm. We can talk about that later if you like. But when it comes to real estate, it's a no-brainer. And again, this is one of the things we do in our membership community, Off the Wheel, where in season 1, episode 2 of our YouTube channel, I make the case that Black Americans should update their retirement plans. And instead of saving for retirement, which is an exercise that we all do in America,
Yeah.
which is a long highway, I say that Black Americans should instead save for Africa, save for Ghana, which is a shorter exit off the highway. And I encourage our community to consider using the assets they've accumulated to buy real estate in Ghana for a million reasons. Number one, it's one of the few places that our community can afford real estate. Most places that you would want to live in America is too expensive for most of us. Some of the average homes are $200 and something thousand, but these are states that we don't want to live in.
Yeah.
Open gun carry states, I don't want to live in, even if the house is $10,000.
Yes.
So the places we want to live, rents are high, real estate is high. Here in Ghana, it's affordable for us. So I make the case that Black Americans should invest in real estate in Ghana, in Africa, but in Ghana because A, it's not going to remain cheap in Ghana forever. B, a lot of people that I talk to say with the direction that the political climate and the cultural climate is moving to, it doesn't hurt to have a plan B exit strategy if things get crazy in America. C, the Airbnb industry is really starting to grow, so you might be able to make a couple of bucks on your property.
Definitely.
And D, I would argue that it makes more sense to start spending your travel time to come to African countries versus the places that we used to go to. Europe. My wife and I went to the DR, Dominican Republic, for 10 straight years. If we could do it all over again and go to 10 different African countries, would have preferred to do that. So there's so many reasons of why it makes sense for you and your budget to put a stake in Ghana real estate.
Yes.
So that's an easy one.
That those are amazing, options that, you've put them in such a great, simple way. You talk about affordability, which, depending on things might change within the next 5 years and 10 years. You talk about, the cultural openness as opposed to America and the social climate that's, going on. And, just even the travel and tourism, like you mentioned, I think that's great because I think the diaspora have a great opportunity to level up their travel experience, by going to holidaying in places that are more welcoming, more, culturally rich, and places where they can see people who look like them and act like them and think like them, and that makes a difference. And also the Airbnb you mentioned, the Airbnb industry is booming in Ghana and Nigeria, and research shows that Ghana and Nigeria are some of the fastest rising Airbnb markets for Airbnb specifically. So I think those are great examples that would make any investor or home buyer really think. So then, what has been your lifestyle experience in Ghana? Like more on the light side, like more, how do you have fun here? You can let us know, whatever you like to share. How's that experience been?
Well, so I've always been a homebody. My wife is the social butterfly. If I wasn't married, I would never get off the couch.
I know.
Right. But my wife, she's the reason why we go to restaurants. We go on trips. We hang out with people. So she's the social one. So I'm just a homebody, which I would like to make my home comfortable and invite people over. Sometimes I prefer inviting people over. So for me,
A lovely porch.
yeah, thanks. So for me, you know, the things that I like to do typically are not out somewhere. They're usually on my porch.
Yes.
So like I would prefer over, let's say, going to a party, I would prefer having 4 interesting people over for dinner.
Nice. That's good.
You
I
know,
agree.
and finding out what people are talking about, what people are thinking about, what people are working on.
Yeah.
So I'm more interested in like the interaction with humanity than going and like searching for the next hot and exciting shiny object.
Exactly.
So so for me, like we have plans to go to the cultural stuff here, the museums.
Exactly. I
We like to
recently
learn
went
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
the Ghana, the National Museum.
Really?
Yes.
This is your first time?
Yes, the new revamped one.
You went to the other one?
The old one, the really
How many times did you go to the other one?
like once in
One
my
time.
life. Yes, in my entire life, I think. And then, but I just went to the new revamped one because I was taking a friend who wanted to see around, and it was interesting, you know. And
Is it better?
Yes, I mean it's not a huge exhibition,
Yeah.
but you can see everything in maybe 20 minutes. It's one
Okay.
room that
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
laid
yeah.
out, but it's great. It's a great option, and there are other, you know, kind of sites that are kind of being developed or revamped.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's
I'm interested in
definitely,
those.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely
Yeah,
let you know more
yeah.
about it right after. And so then maybe in that instance, maybe if you could just share with the audience and those in diaspora your view of the Ghanaian sort of, it's a big question, but essence, like how have you felt about Ghanaian hospitality or the Ghanaian character in general? That makes the good part.
Well, it's been great, but I also have to wonder: has my life been so skewed, working around assholes all my life, that any
Yes.
culture would have been nice?
I get what
So
you mean.
coming from New
I
York,
can't imagine what
you know, maybe, you know,
Definitely.
is there maybe there is a foreign speaking country I'm not going to name that we all know that they look down on you if you don't speak their language.
Yes.
That might be worse than New York.
Yes.
But coming from New York, where you know, there's a badge of honor that sometimes New Yorkers wear with their curtness,
Yes.
their rudeness, their matter of factness, their truth.
Yes.
So coming from that here, where Ghanaians are, you know, they're content, they're optimistic, they're kind. That was like a big adjustment. I was like, what's wrong with these people?
Yeah.
Are they really serious?
Yeah.
But you find out that that's probably how life really is supposed to be lived, versus uptight, paranoid,
Aggressive.
all the time,
Yeah.
thinking everyone's out to get you. So that's been a culture shock, just the experiencing how nice Ghanaians are.
Yes. And so you mentioned so have you tried any local foods, or if not, what are some of your favorite places that you've eaten so far?
Well, so this is the thing. A lot of people ask us this question. And I used to feel weird about answering it because you don't want to offend the Ghanaian who's asking.
Yes, no.
Because I'm not worried about you. But every Ghanaian will ask you if you like the banku and if you like the fufu.
Oh yeah, I don't eat fufu, so
but this is what I realized. I said, when foreigners come to New York, we allow them the grace to bring their foods, and we don't say, which do you love better, Burger King or McDonald's?
Yeah.
We give them the grace to bring their foods, enjoy their foods.
Exactly.
When we go to their house, we eat their food.
That's also
right? And we don't say, oh my God, you don't like pizza?
Yeah.
How dare you? But it's like that here in Ghana.
Definitely.
So I felt maybe a little pressure, but then I realized that you're not gonna develop a taste for something that's foreign to you overnight.
No, definitely no.
And what you grow up on, even if it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's disgusting, but I'm saying even if it is, it's what you grew up on.
Exactly.
My mother grew up on okra.
Oh wow.
I hate okra.
Wow, interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no way I can like okra. She loves okra.
Yeah.
So that's how I come to the conversation. I also want to add one more thing before I answer the question for you. So in America, have you ever heard of grits?
Yes.
Okay.
But I haven't had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in America, I like grits. But I like grits with either salmon cakes or something else. I can't eat grits on its own. I need it with salmon cakes. And so now when I approach banku, fufu, the other things, jollof, like I realized that I'm not gonna love everything. Some things are gonna take me a little bit to get accustomed to.
True.
And I will need certain foods, like salmon cakes with grits. I will need certain foods that I have to discover that for me go well with the banku. It might be different than what you like with it.
Definitely.
And you might look strange at me, like, what are you eating now? I know. But
I know.
But the other thing is that you don't know is that to Americans, all of the food here is spicy.
Exactly.
You do know this?
No, I definitely
know. We knew about this at a place we were together.
Yes, that's very right. Yes, our food is so spicy.
It's so spicy, and then when you ask, is it spicy? They say no. No. We ordered KFC the other day.
Yeah.
It was on fuego. We ordered mild, standard KFC.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was hot.
If it doesn't kick, it won't.
And so that's interesting. But interested in, trying all the foods. Look, when I first tried sushi in the States, hated it. Went on to develop a loving taste for it. So it's probably going to be the same thing that happens here in Ghana. So I just think it's unfair. And how long have we been here?
1 year.
We've been here 2 months.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yeah. You said the month, 2 months. Right.
So it's unfair to expect us to be off the plane, off the boat. Man, cool.
Yes, that.
That's unreasonable.
It's exactly as you said. I couldn't have put it better. Because I personally don't eat fufu, and I get.
What don't you like about it?
I used to eat it too much.
Oh, so you liked it at one point?
No, I ate it because
you tolerated it.
Yes, and then I couldn't tolerate it anymore.
You tolerated it as a kid.
Yes,
and then when you got to be an adult.
When I could make the choice, and but my grandma loved it, and there are different.
So you were lying to your grandma.
Yes, that's what
That's love.
I know, right? But it's that kind of situation where you get what's at home kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then
you're not paying the bills, so
I know.
You can't choose the food.
but luckily I was accommodated in terms of you try these other things that you like, even though everybody else.
Yeah.
So I think definitely it's a journey, and there's quite a number of different things, and in time you just decide what you like, what you don't like. And the good thing is you can cook, so you can eat whatever food you like. And the last thing I'm also semi-interested in is fusions. like you said, I thought of making a wache burrito or a jollof burrito.
Wow.
There's this.
We were interested in a lot of fusions back home.
Yes.
And I'm a little torn on this matter because while we have enjoyed some of the best fusions, like we went to a place that was Mexican sushi,
Yes.
and it was delicious, or Africa and Mexico.
Exactly.
But then when people try to do fusion on pizza, it pisses me off. So there are certain
no
things
pineapples there,
that are just sacrilegious.
No Hawaiians for you.
Oh
then.
no. Maybe sausage, maybe a pepperoni,
yes.
maybe a vegetable.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, nothing.
Yeah, so that's great. Then okay, so we'll come a bit, try to take it, increase the scope a little. If you had the ear of relevant stakeholders in Ghana, what are some of the key points you would tell them on like how to improve the ecosystem for diasporans looking to come and invest or stay in Ghana? What does it?
Well, so you always have to speak the language of your audience or your customer. And in this case, the audience and the customer is American. And so you need an American liaison.
Yes. Excellent.
Preferably someone who's gone through pain. So let's just take residency permit, for example. If you don't get a residency permit, you have to keep getting your visa renewed. I think it starts on 60 days and it's 90 days. And there's some YouTube people that document how they have to leave the country, they used to go to Togo, all this crazy stuff. And we should say, wow, why would they do that? And we came here and said, we don't want to do that. So we went through the whole residency program, but there's a lot of things that you need. The problem is there's no website that you can go to download a checklist of all the things you need. So you go to this location and someone will give you 5 of the 20 things you need. And you go to this location, they'll give you another 4. And then by the time you go to 5 locations, you've figured out all 20 things that you need.
Yes.
So that can take time.
Yeah, exactly.
And then some of the things are, in my opinion, unnecessary and overly burdensome. For example, for us to get a residency permit, we had to get 2 Ghanaians to vouch for us. Vouching for us means writing a letter.
Yeah.
But worse than that, they have to come to immigration with us.
In person?
With their bank statements.
Wow.
So we're new here. We gotta ask some stranger, hey, can you come vouch for 2 strangers with your bank statement? It's a big ask. And so I would challenge the powers that be to revisit why the Ghanaian needs to bring their bank statement. Because that's just an easy reason for someone to say, oh no, I can't do that. And I would totally understand. Another thing is just like we alluded to business, I think Ghana is doing itself a disservice with its current business barriers. They've gotten better. So it used to be, if I wanted to start a business in Ghana, I needed to finance that business with $1 million. Or partner with the Ghanaian, and it would be less than $1 million. They reduced the $1 million mark to 500,000, which to someone who doesn't have 500,000 is no different. So if a foreigner wants to come in on their own, they have to fund that business with 500,000, or find a Ghanaian to partner with, and then it's only 100,000. To me, that's still too much. In America, you have an idea, go to the website, you can create your company in 10 minutes with your state, get a tax ID in 10 minutes from the federal government, open up an online bank account in 10 minutes, set up a website in 10 minutes, set up your social media in 10 minutes. 2 hours later, you're ready, get a payment. 2 hours later, you're ready to accept money on something. So the burden of, at minimum, coming up with $100,000, I would like to have them done something like this. $5,000 for the first year. And then every year thereafter, if you're over 20 employees, you pay $5,000 a year. But if you're small, you don't have to be burdened with that.
Yes, just apply based on.
And if you hire, let's say, 10 Ghanaians,
Yes.
you get the 5,000 back. If you can show that you've hired 10 Ghanaians or 20 Ghanaians or whatever for a year, you get that 5,000 back. This way, the 5,000 separates the people who just play games.
Yeah.
But then the people who show up and really add value to the economy by hiring Ghanaians, paying salaries, you reward them. So I would like to have seen a little more creativity around engaging people who want to bring ideas and businesses to Ghana. Because right now, you can have a really motivated person who is not a millionaire,
Yes.
who has the hustle and the connections to create a company and hire 15 Ghanaians, but they don't got $100,000. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think I definitely endorse that message. Then I think we'll just have the last question. What advice would you give other diasporans who are looking to live and invest in Ghana? You can just take that.
Well, I start with a very strange answer. It's a philosophical one. I don't believe in the afterlife. So excuse me for all of the watchers who believe in the afterlife and believe that they have infinity after this flesh and bone is gone. So we only have so much time left on this rock.
Yes.
How do you want to go out?
Yeah.
How do you want the best years of your life when you have your mind aware, when you have relatively good health?
Yeah.
These are the best years of your life.
Yeah.
How do you want to spend those years? Do you want to spend them giving them to the wheel, giving them to a boss or a company that doesn't care about you?
Yeah.
Or do you say, let me go to where we all came from, and all the hustle and the sweat and the blood that I would spend for the boss man, why not do it for Ghana? Why not do it for myself?
Yeah.
And spend my good remaining years in a place that doesn't want to see me harmed, that wants to see me prosper, where there can be a symbiotic relationship with what you've been able to do, for my case in the States, with what Ghana needs here. That's a two-piece puzzle set that fits so nicely together. And look, there's a lot of noise. There are people in Ghana who don't see the big picture. There are people in America or the UK that don't see the big picture. You gotta push that noise aside and find the people who are on the same frequency as you, talking the same language about partnership, collaborations, and building. And when they find each other and you push all the noise away, beautiful things can happen. And so my advice is, come to Ghana. On my YouTube channel, my wife goes crazy when I do it. I say to the viewers, when you get to Ghana, look me up. Come over for lunch. Come over for dinner. They come over. Because you need like-minded people all linking up. And so my advice is just really consider how you want to spend your best years. Who do you want to give your best years to? Why wouldn't it be giving it to yourself? Why wouldn't you want to live around people like you? And just come to Ghana and at least rule it out. If you come here and you spend 10 days and you go, look, I asked the question, I tried to come, it just wasn't for me. I can say that for certain, and now I can get back on the wheel and do whatever I do. But you might be surprised. You might come here, like I did on day 2, and go, I can live here.
True.
So that would be my advice.
Yeah. And also too, people can also even invest here and have have something, a business, or like you said, real estate that works for them no matter where they are.
Listen, I had clients who I would fight with who will spend $10,000, $15,000 on a new fancy bag.
Yes.
Would spend $1,000, $5,000 on a new fancy shoe. I got clients who will stand in line of a sneaker store and spend $2,500 on a new shoe. Will spend all kinds of money on their car or Tinder dates or whatever. And all that money could have bought themselves a $50,000 one-bedroom condo here in Ghana that could have opened up so many doors for them.
Exactly.
Revenue doors, opportunity doors, break in case of emergency
Yes.
plan. And so when it comes to investing, I think that our community is doing themselves a disservice if they don't really even consider the idea of investing in Ghana or investing in Africa. So that's my personal opinion.
That's amazing. I think that's a great way to kind of sign off on this amazing interview. It's been very informative. I mean, I think I've learned a lot even from your experiences here, and the passion and the enthusiasm you have for building a life in Ghana it's infectious, and I think it's something that we can all learn from, no matter where we are, and I think it's just great, and we're very privileged to have you, and thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah, I just think that the best kind of sales job is the one where you really believe in the product.
Exactly.
Like if you don't believe in the product, you're really selling it. You're convincing someone to do something, to buy something that they don't want. But when you believe in the product or you're living the product, it becomes infectious because every truth about it exudes from your body and people pick up on that. So thanks for stopping by and having a conversation. And I hope the viewers get some value out of it and consider investing in Seso. Consider checking out my YouTube channel if you just want to see what we've gone through. And I would also say stay close for a big real estate project that I'm working on. So if you're interested in things that I've said and the whole connection between Black Americans and housing, stay tuned. So that's all I have. So thank you, sir.
And like you mentioned, how can people reach you or find out more, your YouTube page and other?
So I would say the best way is go to offthewheel.info. Offthewheel.info. From there, you can see our investment project that's coming up. You can see if the membership community that we're growing makes sense for you to join. And you can also see that we also have an Airbnb here in our building where what's unique about our Airbnb is, you can come book with us and do all of the Ghana tourist things, but also we have a pathway where you can practice living here in Ghana through our direction. So that's for someone who's on the fence to say, oh, I wonder would I come here for a week and practice living in Ghana to see if it would make sense for you. So all that is on our website, offthewheel.info.
That's great. Thank you so much, dear.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It's been a
sir.
great
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you.
And we wish you the best of luck in everything.
Thank you. Thank you.